When Marcus Thompson spent his last $5 on a rusted spaceship at a Nexus station junkyard, he thought he was buying scrap metal. But hidden within the ship's quantum core was something that would change not just his life, but the fate of 3 star systems. What he discovered wasn't just technology. It was a living secret that powerful forces across the galaxy would kill to possess. This is the story of how one desperate human's gamble awakened something that had been sleeping among the stars for 1,000 years. The year was 2387, and Marcus Thompson stood at the edge of bankruptcy on Nexus Station, a sprawling commercial hub floating in the asteroid belt between Kepler 442b and the twin suns of Zephyria. At 28 years old, the former cargo pilot had exactly 5 universal credits left to his name, barely enough for a cup of Catherian coffee, let alone passage off this overcrowded metal maze that orbited the galaxy's busiest trade route. Marcus ran his calloused fingers through his brown hair, watching the endless stream of beings flowing through the station's main concourse. Tall, blue-skinned Vortaxians negotiated with 6-armed Heliodor merchants, while crystalline prismatic traders clicked and chimed in their musical language. The air hummed with dozens of alien dialects, the scent of exotic spices, and the constant thrum of the station's massive gravity generators. His stomach growled, a reminder that he hadn't eaten in 2 days. The last job had gone sideways when pirates attacked his convoy near the Omega Nebula. His ship was destroyed, his cargo lost, and the insurance company had found a loophole to deny his claim. Now he was stranded, with nothing but the clothes on his back, and a growing sense of desperation. As Marcus wandered through the lower levels of the station, past the engine maintenance bays and recycling centers, he stumbled upon a section he'd never noticed before. A flickering holographic sign in 12 different languages advertised, Vexhi's Salvage Emporium, where yesterday's junk becomes tomorrow's treasure. The proprietor, an elderly Quillian named Vexhi Thornspike, stood behind a makeshift counter. Her amphibian-like skin was mottled green and gold, and her 4 eyes blinked independently as she sorted through a collection of broken hyperdrive components. "Looking for something specific, human?" Vexhi croaked, her voice carrying the melodic undertones typical of her species. Her translator device, an outdated model that sparked occasionally, converted her words into slightly accented galactic standard. Marcus shook his head, about to leave, when something caught his eye in the far corner of the salvage yard. Partially hidden beneath a tarp and surrounded by rusted hull plates and defunct navigation computers was the outline of a small spacecraft. It was clearly ancient. The hull design belonged to the pre-warp era, possibly Earth-manufactured from the early colonization period. "That ship," Marcus pointed, his heart beginning to race with possibility. "Does it run?" Vexhi's main eyes followed his gaze while her auxiliary eyes continued sorting parts. "Ah, the Terran relic. Found it drifting in the Cascade sector 3 cycles ago. Dead in space, no power, no life signs. My salvage crew thought it might be worth something to a collector, but nobody's shown interest." She paused, studying Marcus with obvious skepticism. "It's been picked clean by scavengers. Even if the engines worked, which they don't, you'd need a fortune in parts to make it space-worthy." Marcus walked closer, his boots crunching on metal shavings and broken circuit boards. The ship was roughly 40 meters long, with the sleek lines characteristic of Earth's Aurora-class explorers from the 2340s. Despite the damage and corrosion, he could see the craftsmanship that had gone into its construction. These ships had been built to last, designed for long-range exploration missions beyond the reach of civilization. "How much?" he asked, though he already knew the answer would be more than he could afford. Vexhi's translator crackled as she laughed, a sound like water flowing over stones. "For that heap? I was going to sell it for scrap next week. The hull metal alone is worth 30 credits to the recyclers." She tilted her head, studying Marcus with newfound curiosity. "But you're not looking at it like scrap, are you, human? You see something else?" Marcus nodded slowly. There was something about this ship that called to him, something beyond rational explanation. Maybe it was desperation, or maybe it was the pilot's instinct that had kept him alive through countless dangerous runs across the galaxy. Whatever it was, he felt certain that this seemingly worthless wreck was his way forward. "I have 5 credits," he said simply. "It's everything I have." The silence stretched between them, broken only by the distant sounds of the station's machinery and the chatter of passing aliens. Vexhi's 4 eyes studied him intently, as if she could read the desperation and determination written in his expression. 5 credits, she repeated slowly, "for a dead ship that's older than my grandmother's grandmother." She was quiet for a long moment, then her mouth curved into something that might have been a smile. "Deal, human. But don't come crying to me when you realize you've bought yourself a very expensive coffin. If you're ready to journey across the galaxy and discover what Marcus found in that abandoned ship, hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and comment below telling us which planet you're watching from. Now, let's begin this incredible adventure." Marcus transferred his last 5 credits to Vexhi's account, the transaction appearing as a brief holographic confirmation in the air between them. The Quillian salvage dealer handed him a standard ownership chip, a small crystalline device that would register him as the legal owner of the vessel throughout Confederation space. The ship's designation was Stellar Wanderer according to the registry, Vexhi mentioned, pulling up the vessel's information on her handheld scanner. Last known captain was someone named Elena Rodriguez. The ship went missing 47 years ago during a deep space exploration mission to the Void's Edge, that uncharted region beyond the Spiral Arm territories. Marcus pocketed the ownership chip and climbed aboard through the ship's partially open airlock. The interior was dark, illuminated only by the faint emergency lighting from Nexus Station filtering through the salvage yard. His footsteps echoed in the empty corridors as he made his way toward what he hoped was the bridge. The ship's layout was typical of Aurora-class explorers, compact but efficient. A central corridor ran the length of the vessel, connecting the bridge at the front to the engine room at the rear, with crew quarters, a small galley, and storage compartments branching off to either side. Everything was covered in a thin layer of cosmic dust, and several panels hung open where previous scavengers had removed valuable components. As Marcus reached the bridge, his breath caught in his throat. Despite the damage, the command center retained an elegance that spoke to Earth's finest engineering traditions. The captain's chair sat before a wraparound console that would have once displayed star charts, sensor readings, and navigation data. Now, most of the screens were dark or cracked. He settled into the pilot's seat, running his hands over the controls with the reverence of someone who understood their purpose. These ships had carried humanity's dreams to the stars, opening new worlds and establishing the foundation for the Galactic Confederation. To find one intact, even in this condition, was like discovering a piece of history. Marcus began systematically checking the ship's systems, though he expected to find nothing but dead circuits and drained power cells. The main computer appeared completely non-functional, its quantum processors dark and silent. The life support systems had been stripped bare, leaving only empty mounting brackets and severed cables. Even the artificial gravity generators had been removed, explaining why he felt so light on his feet. But as he explored deeper into the ship, Marcus began to notice something odd. While the obvious components, navigation computers, communication arrays, even the food processors, had been thoroughly scavenged, many of the ship's more fundamental systems remained untouched. The quantum field generators that had once powered the faster-than-light drive were still in place, as was the ship's primary fusion reactor, though both appeared offline. In the engineering section, Marcus discovered something that made him pause. Hidden behind a maintenance panel that had somehow escaped the scavengers' attention was a secondary power distribution network, one that didn't appear on any of the ship's standard technical specifications. The conduits were made of an unusual crystalline material that seemed to shimmer with its own internal light, and they led deeper into the ship than the blueprint suggested was possible. Following the mysterious conduits, Marcus found himself crawling through a maintenance shaft that should have led to the ship's waste recycling system. Instead, it opened into a hidden chamber that defied everything he knew about Aurora-class design. The room was spherical, its walls covered in the same crystalline material as the conduits, and at its center floated an object that took his breath away. It was roughly the size of a basketball, perfectly spherical, and composed of what appeared to be living crystal. Veins of soft blue light pulsed through its translucent surface in patterns that reminded Marcus of neural networks, or galaxy formations viewed from impossible distances. The object rotated slowly, suspended in midair without any visible means of support, surrounded by a faint field of energy that made the hair on his arm stand up. As Marcus stared at the mysterious sphere, he became aware of something extraordinary. The object was humming, not with mechanical vibration, but with something that resonated in his mind rather than his ears. The sound was hauntingly beautiful, like a lullaby sung by the cosmos itself, and it seemed to respond to his presence, growing slightly brighter and more melodic as he approached. "What are you?" Marcus whispered, reaching out instinctively toward the sphere. The moment his fingertips came within inches of its surface, the object flared with brilliant light, and suddenly Marcus wasn't alone in the chamber. Standing before him was a figure that seemed to be made of the same crystalline material as the sphere, but shaped into a vaguely humanoid form. Its features were androgynous and ethereal, with eyes that held the depth of starlight. "I am Lyrali," the figure spoke, its voice echoing directly in Marcus's mind. "Guardian of the resonance, keeper of the harmony that binds the spiral arms together. For 47 years I have waited in dormancy for one whose heart carries the song of unity. You, Marcus Thompson of Earth, have been chosen." Marcus stumbled backward, his heart pounding as he stared at the ethereal being before him. Lyrali's crystalline form seemed to shift and flow like liquid starlight, neither fully solid nor completely translucent. The Guardian moved with fluid grace, each gesture sending ripples of soft blue light through the chamber's walls. "I don't understand," Marcus managed, his voice barely above a whisper. "What is the resonance? Why have you been waiting here?" Lyrali's luminous eyes studied him with ancient wisdom. "The resonance is the fundamental frequency that connects all life across the galaxy, Marcus Thompson. It is the harmony that allows different species to coexist, to understand one another, to build the confederation you know today. Without it, the cosmos would fracture into endless war and isolation." The Guardian gestured toward the floating sphere, which pulsed more brightly in response. "This vessel carries a fragment of the prime resonance, one of 7 created by the first civilization before they transcended physical existence eons ago. Each fragment maintains the harmonic balance of an entire spiral arm. This one protects the sector where Earth, Kepler 442b, Zephyria, and 1,000 other worlds coexist in peace." Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. "But something's wrong, isn't it? That's why you're here, why this ship was lost for 47 years. Lyrali nodded gravely. "The fragment has been slowly destabilizing. Captain Elena Rodriguez discovered this ship drifting in the void's edge, just as you found it today, but functional and powered. She was a xenoarchaeologist, studying ancient civilizations, and she recognized the fragment's importance immediately. The chamber around them shimmered, and suddenly Marcus could see ghostly images playing out like holographic memories. A woman in her 40s with graying hair and intelligent brown eyes appeared, studying the same crystalline sphere with scientific wonder. This had to be Elena Rodriguez, the ship's former captain. Elena understood the danger. Lyrali continued. The fragment's destabilization was causing subtle but growing discord throughout the sector. Trade disputes were escalating into conflicts. Diplomatic relations were deteriorating. Species that had coexisted peacefully for centuries were beginning to view each other with suspicion and hostility. The holographic Elena worked frantically at portable equipment she'd brought into the chamber, taking readings and making calculations. Her face showed growing alarm as she reviewed the data. She tried to stabilize the fragment herself, Lyrali explained, but the process required a deep mental connection with the resonance, a harmony of spirit that few beings possess. Elena had the intellect, but lacked the emotional resonance necessary to complete the calibration. Marcus watched as the ghostly figure of Elena placed her hands near the sphere, just as he had done moments before. But where his touch had awakened Lyrali, Elena's attempt resulted in violent energy feedback. The holographic woman was thrown backward, her body convulsing as crystalline energy coursed through her. The failed attempt fractured her consciousness, Lyrali said sadly. I placed her in temporal stasis to preserve her life, then put the ship into hibernation mode to prevent further destabilization. We drifted into the Cascade sector, where we waited for someone with the right harmonic frequency to find us. The Guardian turned to Marcus, its expression hopeful yet urgent. The fragment has continued to deteriorate during these 47 years. The effects are becoming more pronounced. Have you not noticed the increasing tensions in your travels? The growing distrust between species? The rise in piracy and conflict along the trade routes? Marcus thought back to his recent experiences, the insurance company's cruel denial of his claim, the increased pirate activity that had cost him his ship, the general atmosphere of suspicion and greed that seemed to permeate Nexus Station. He had attributed it to normal fluctuations in galactic politics, but now he wondered if something deeper was at work. What happened to Elena? He asked. Is she still alive? She exists in a state between life and stasis, Lyrali replied. Her body is preserved in the ship's medical bay, but her consciousness is trapped in the fragment's quantum matrix. If we can successfully stabilize the resonance, she will be restored. If we fail, the Guardian's voice carried the weight of cosmic tragedy. The fragment will shatter completely, and the harmonic discord will spread like a plague across the galaxy. Wars will erupt between species that have been allies for generations. The Confederation will collapse into chaos, and Elena's consciousness will be lost forever. Marcus felt the enormous weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. But why me? I'm just a cargo pilot. I don't know anything about ancient technologies or cosmic harmonics. Lyrelei moved closer and Marcus could feel the warmth of the Guardian's energy. The resonance does not choose based on knowledge or training, Marcus Thompson. It chooses based on the harmony within your spirit, your capacity for unity, understanding, and hope despite adversity. Your life has taught you to find connection across species barriers, to see beyond surface differences to the common threads that bind all conscious beings together. The sphere pulsed brighter, as if responding to their conversation. The process will require you to merge temporarily with the fragment's consciousness, to become a living conduit for the harmonic frequency. It is dangerous. There is a chance you could be lost in the quantum matrix just as Elena was. But you are our only hope. Marcus stared at the beautiful, terrifying object floating before him. In the space of an hour, he had gone from a desperate man spending his last 5 credits on scrap metal to holding the fate of the galaxy in his hands. The rational part of his mind screamed that this was impossible, that he should walk away and return to his simple problems of poverty and unemployment. But as he looked into Lyrelei's ancient eyes, Marcus felt something stirring within him, a deep recognition that this moment had been waiting for him his entire life. Marcus took a deep breath, steeling himself for what lay ahead. "Show me Elena first," he said to Lyrelei. "I need to see her before I attempt this." The Guardian nodded with understanding. "Follow me, Marcus Thompson. But know that time grows short. The fragment's harmonics are degrading faster now that it has awakened from dormancy." They left the hidden chamber, with Lyrelei's crystalline form flowing through the ship's corridors like living light. The Guardian led Marcus to the medical bay, a compact but sophisticated facility that had somehow escaped the scavenger's attention. Perhaps, Marcus thought, Lyrelei had kept it concealed until now. There, in a cylindrical stasis pod filled with shimmering blue fluid, floated Elena Rodriguez. She appeared exactly as she had in the holographic memories, a woman in her 40s with graying hair and intelligent features, but peaceful now, as if sleeping. Monitoring equipment that Marcus didn't recognize hummed quietly around the pod, displaying readings and symbols that seemed to shift between mathematical equations and musical notation. Her body remains stable, Lyrelei explained, but her consciousness has been fragmented across the quantum matrix for 47 years. She experiences time differently there. Moments stretch into eternities, while decades pass like heartbeats. She knows we are here, Marcus. She knows you have come to attempt what she could not complete. Marcus placed his hand against the cool surface of the stasis pod. "Elena, if you can hear me somehow, I'm going to try to bring you home. I'm going to try to save us all." For a moment he could have sworn he saw her eyelids flutter, though Lyrelei assured him it was only the interaction between his bioelectric field and the stasis matrix. Returning to the hidden chamber, Marcus stood before the fragment of the prime resonance. The crystalline sphere had grown noticeably brighter, its internal patterns more complex and urgent. He could feel its energy resonating in his bones, calling to something deep within his consciousness. "What exactly do I need to do?" Marcus asked, surprised by how calm his voice sounded. "Place both hands directly on the fragment's surface," Lyrelei instructed. "Open your mind to the harmonic frequencies it contains. You will experience the consciousness of countless beings across the galaxy, their hopes, fears, dreams, and connections to one another. The key is to maintain your own identity while allowing their harmony to flow through you." Lyrelei's form flickered with concern. "Remember, Marcus Thompson, you are not trying to control the resonance, but to become a conduit for it. Think of yourself as a tuning fork, helping the fragment remember its proper frequency. If you try to impose your will upon it, you will be consumed as Elena was." Marcus nodded, then slowly extended his hands toward the sphere. The moment his palms made contact with its surface, reality exploded around him. Suddenly, Marcus was everywhere at once. He was a Vortaxian trader haggling in the markets of Kepler 442b, feeling the satisfaction of a fair deal reached through mutual respect. He was a Heliodor engineer working alongside human technicians to repair a damaged space station, their 6 arms moving in perfect coordination with human tools. He was a crystalline prismatic, being composing mathematical poetry that brought tears to the optical sensors of silicon-based life forms. The sensations were overwhelming. Millions of conscious minds across dozens of star systems, all connected by threads of understanding and cooperation that formed an intricate web of galactic civilization. Marcus could feel the places where those threads had begun to fray, where suspicion and discord were eating away at the bonds that held different species together. But more than that, he could sense the underlying pattern, the fundamental frequency that Lyreley had called the resonance. It was like a cosmic symphony, with each species contributing its own unique melody to a greater composition. The fragment was one of the conductors of this symphony, helping to keep all the different melodies in harmony. And the fragment was dying. Marcus could feel its quantum matrix fragmenting, the harmonic patterns becoming increasingly chaotic. Worse, he could sense Elena Rodriguez's consciousness trapped within the degrading structure, her awareness scattered across multiple probability states. She was experiencing every possible outcome of her failed attempt simultaneously, a fate worse than death. Drawing on every ounce of his determination, Marcus began to sing. It wasn't a song with words, but something deeper, a melody that came from his core understanding of what it meant to be part of something larger than himself. He thought of every moment in his life when he had connected with someone different from himself. The Catherian mechanic who had taught him to repair hyperdrive engines, the elderly Quillian storyteller, who had shared ancient wisdom during a long cargo run, even Vex High's unexpected act of trust in selling him the ship. The fragment responded to his song, its chaotic patterns beginning to stabilize. Marcus could feel Elena's fragmented consciousness starting to coalesce, drawn together by the harmonic frequency he was channeling. But the effort was enormous, like trying to hold a star together with his bare hands. "That's it, Marcus Thompson," Lyreley's voice echoed through the quantum matrix. "You have found the harmonic key, but you must sustain it while I integrate Elena's consciousness back into linear time. Hold the pattern steady. The fate of 3 spiral arms depends on your strength." Marcus felt his own identity beginning to blur at the edges as the massive energies flowed through him. The temptation to let go, to drift away into the cosmic symphony, was almost overwhelming. But he held on, anchored by his determination to save Elena and restore the harmony that kept the galaxy at peace. Through the quantum matrix, he could sense the fragment's stabilization sending ripples across space. On Nexus Station, a heated argument between Vortaxian and human traders suddenly dissolved into laughter and mutual understanding. In the Zephyria system, a diplomatic crisis between 2 allied species evaporated as old friendships reasserted themselves. The galaxy was healing, one connection at a time. As Marcus maintained the harmonic frequency, he felt Elena Rodriguez's consciousness beginning to solidify within the quantum matrix. Her fragmented awareness, scattered across 47 years of probability states, slowly coalesced into a single, coherent identity. Through their shared connection to the fragment, Marcus could sense her relief, her gratitude, and her amazement at his success where she had failed. "Marcus," Elena's voice echoed through the matrix, clear and strong despite her decades of imprisonment. "You're doing it. The harmonic patterns are stabilizing. I can feel myself becoming whole again." The effort was taking its toll on Marcus. Sweat beaded on his forehead as he channeled the massive energies required to maintain the resonance frequency. His hands, still pressed against the fragment's surface, trembled with the strain. But he could sense that they were almost there. The quantum matrix was nearly stable, and Elena's consciousness was ready for reintegration with her physical form. "Just a little longer," Lyreley encouraged, the Guardian's crystalline form blazing with supportive energy. "The fragment is remembering its true purpose. The harmonic cascade is spreading across the spiral arm. I can sense the restoration of unity on 1,000 worlds." Through the quantum connection, Marcus experienced glimpses of the healing taking place across the galaxy. On the industrial world of Mechanicus Prime, human and robotic workers who had been locked in labor disputes suddenly found common ground in their shared dedication to craftsmanship. In the academic halls of Kepler 442b, scholars from 12 different species collaborated on breakthrough research with unprecedented enthusiasm. Even the pirates who had destroyed Marcus's cargo ship found themselves questioning their destructive lifestyle, drawn by an inexplicable urge to seek honest work. The fragment pulsed with brilliant light, its crystalline structure now perfectly stable, the chaotic patterns replaced by the elegant mathematical harmonies that had maintained galactic peace for millennia. Elena's consciousness, fully restored, began its journey back to her physical body in the medical bay. "It's time to let go, Marcus," Lyreley said gently. "The resonance is stable. Elena is safe. You have given the galaxy the greatest gift possible. the restoration of harmony between all conscious beings. Marcus slowly lifted his hands from the fragment's surface, his legs nearly giving out from exhaustion. The chamber continued to glow with soft blue light, but the urgent pulsing had been replaced by a steady, peaceful rhythm that seemed to match the beating of his heart. "We need to get to Elena," Marcus said, though he could barely stand. Lyrelay supported him with tendrils of crystalline energy as they made their way back to the medical bay. They arrived just as Elena Rodriguez opened her eyes for the first time in 47 years. The stasis pod had already begun its revival sequence, draining the preservation fluid and adjusting the atmospheric mixture. Elena's eyes found Marcus immediately, and she smiled with the warmth of someone greeting a dear friend. "Marcus Thompson," she said as the pod opened, her voice hoarse but filled with joy. "I felt everything you did through the quantum matrix. You saved not just me, but billions of beings across the galaxy." Elena sat up slowly, stretching muscles that had been dormant for nearly 5 decades. Despite her ordeal, she appeared remarkably healthy. The stasis field had preserved her perfectly. "The fragment is stable now, isn't it? I can feel it humming with the proper frequency. For the first time in 47 years, Lyrelay confirmed, the Guardian's form radiating contentment. "The resonance flows freely once again. The bonds between species will strengthen, cooperation will flourish, and the age of harmony can continue." Elena turned to Marcus with tears of gratitude in her eyes. "You gave up everything to save a galaxy you'd never even known was in danger. When I tried to stabilize the fragment, I was driven by scientific curiosity and duty. But you did it out of pure compassion for beings you'd never met." Marcus helped Elena to her feet, marveling at the surreal turn his life had taken. Just hours ago, he had been a desperate, unemployed pilot with 5 credits to his name. Now he was standing in a chamber with a reawakened xenoarchaeologist and a crystalline guardian, having just saved galactic civilization. "What happens now?" Marcus asked. Elena grinned, and suddenly Marcus could see the adventurous spirit that had driven her to explore the galaxy's mysteries. "Now, my friend, we have a ship to restore and a galaxy to explore. The stellar wanderer may be old, but she's got good bones. With the fragment providing power and Lyrelay's knowledge of advanced technologies, we can make her space-worthy again. And there are 6 other fragments scattered across the galaxy," Lyrelay added. "While they remain stable for now, they will eventually require maintenance. The cosmos has chosen you, Marcus Thompson, to be the new guardian of harmony. Elena will be your guide, and I will be your companion in this sacred duty." 3 weeks later, Marcus stood on the bridge of the fully restored Stellar Wanderer as she departed Nexus Station. Elena had taken her place as captain once again, while Marcus served as her first officer and co-guardian of the Resonance. Vexai had been stunned to learn that the scrap heap she'd sold for 5 credits was actually a vessel of cosmic importance, but she had cheerfully accepted their generous payment for her unknowing role in saving the galaxy. The ship's corridors hummed with new energy provided by the fragment, and Lyrelay's crystalline presence could be felt throughout the vessel, a constant reminder of the harmony they had restored. As they set course for the distant stars where other fragments waited, Marcus reflected on the incredible journey that had brought him to this moment. He had spent his last 5 credits on what he thought was scrap metal, only to discover that sometimes the most valuable treasures are found in the most unlikely places. In saving the galaxy, he had found not just purpose and friendship, but a family among the stars that would last forever. The universe stretched out before them, vast and full of wonder, united once again by the eternal song of harmony that connected all conscious beings across the cosmos. The end